Hey everyone, Tony D with another hot take. A few weeks back, I did my own version of Civil War 2.0. I'm going to do an updated version of that using my various screenwriting powers on the current situation. We've just coming off the Iowa caucus, and it's absolute chaos for the Democrats. So, what if we had the Civil War and Trump wins, but we have a civil war coming from the left side of politics? Could it happen? Well, again, I don't believe it would. Seriously unlikely, but maybe it could unfold something like this. The Democrats are in absolute shambles, as they are, and people are frustrated. Bernie Sanders, who is clearly the winner, is denied the nomination simply because the DNC just refuses to give it to him because they know they're going to lose. So instead of giving it to Bernie, they give the nomination. They essentially crown Hillary the nominee a second time. They just give it to her. They change the rules in such an egregious way that Bernie supporters, Bernie bros, are storming out of the convention. They're furious. They're being interviewed online to some extent, but not on the mainstream media. There's a media blackout as the neoliberals, finally pull rank way too late on the socialist and extreme left within their own party. They just pull rank in the most humiliating and embarrassing, dumb way. They wait until the last possible minute and they make themselves look absolutely tyrannical by doing this. And what it creates is it takes that, I believe it's 20 to 30% of the Democratic Party is now hard left or sympathetic to the hard left, takes that. First off, they're not going to vote for the neoliberal nominee, which will probably be Hillary Clinton, let's say. But not only that, they become militant. They become violent. They not only want to make sure this never happens again, they want to take down Hillary and make sure she's going to lose the general election. So you end up with these protests, not at Trump rallies, but at her rallies. And these turn increasingly violent as Bernie bros just lash out because they're far too frustrated, and they were kind of on the extreme left anyway, as shown by the Project Veritas videos, right? They're hardcore Marxists, communists, anarchist. These guys were right on the verge, and now they've got, in their view, nothing. They can't bring themselves to vote for Trump. They hate Trump, but they also can't vote themselves for the liberals, who they see as the liberals, the neoliberals, and they see this as the ultimate betrayal, and they have nothing left to. We're talking a small percentage of people, but they feel like they have nothing to live for now. So they have to rise up and, basically do guerrilla tactics. So they start, they firebomb offices. They start sabotaging every Hillary event, which has to have more and more security. And, even Trump has to send the federal government's forces in order to protect his opponent, because what else are you going to do? I mean, you have to protect her. She's the opposition. It would look terrible if he didn't protect her. It would look way worse. So he's protecting her. She's using Secret Service and federal agents, not 24/7, round the clock again, and the hatred towards Trump is nothing compared to the hatred towards Hillary Clinton and the neoliberals. And they also attack the media. They go after the media, as one of the Project Veritas Bernie bros exposed, was that he said, I'd like to drag out an MSNBC host by her hair into the street. I mean, that was pretty gruesome imagery. So imagine some guys like that doing exactly that. They attack the MSNBC studios and other media outlets that they blame for their loss. Now they've been so radicalized by everything they've heard, they don't see themselves as having anything to lose. Maybe one of them even straps a suicide vest to himself and blows himself up in the middle of a rally. And so it just gets worse and worse. So the response from the Trump side is, he's a law and order guy, and he's like, well, we got to investigate this stuff, and he's forced to crack down more and more on these protesters. But perhaps the response gets a little out of hand, and that just makes things even worse. It makes Trump look bad, and it makes Hillary look like a victim. And in the end, Trump squeaks through another election, I believe he'll still win, but it's very close, and it's even nastier than 2016, if you can believe it. It's just nasty beyond words, and that turns into violence on a scale that it's not like the Civil War in that several states secede or anything. It's like you can't even go into these major urban areas without having certain politics, because now you've got essentially roving gangs of Antifa or Antifa-like groups hunting liberals and elites, and kicking them out of their cities, kicking them out of their restaurants or whatever. And it's much worse than when the Republicans were attacked this way, and the media coverage heightens it. So now the left-leaning media suddenly discovers, well, here's the radical left, and here's why they're terrible people. And the only reason they discover that is because these people are attacking them openly, and they attack them live on TV, and there's incident after incident. And it's not open warfare, but it's like guerrilla warfare. Like the 60s, only with this weird bent where it's like 60s like radicals, only instead of attacking the establishment of, say, Donald Trump and the Republicans, they mostly just attack the establishment of the neoliberal types. And, it's nearly impossible for Trump to get a lid on that, because there's also tacit acceptance of it online with certain websites, certain left-leaning websites, whose ideals are then exposed to being hard left. They were sort of hard left to begin with, but now they finally are forced to pick a side. Like, well, if my choice is the neoliberals or some of these activists, quote unquote, who are actually getting violent, they end up picking the violent ones because they see that as, well, I can't pick the neoliberals, I'll be a sellout. And that won't be good for readership. So this stuff is actually encouraged in its own weird way online, which leads probably to more censorship, or at least calls for it. And that would be probably the biggest tragedy of a American Civil War too, and it would just be dirty and nasty and dangerous. in my view. If it was going to end like a screenplay, it would kind of end like Children of Men, um, in that it would be really, really dark, gritty movie where a lot of people get killed. But maybe at the end there might be a ray of hope as, finally someone on the left side of politics stands up and maybe finally says, "Hey, we can't be violent anymore," and maybe a new party emerges, maybe one for the socialist and one for the actual moderate Democrat. Maybe we end up in a five-party system, 4 or 5 party system, sort of like the UK, or where the Tories are the big party, or in this case the Republicans, and then there's like 2 or 3 other smaller parties that, if they unite and vote together, they can get more numbers over the Republicans. But they're actually 3 different groups that only overlap under certain conditions. And then maybe one of those parties will be the Libertarians, and maybe we'll finally get a few seats in Congress. But I don't think a civil war is going to happen. I think ultimately what we're going to see, even if Hillary runs, is you're just going to see a continued dissolution of the DNC until it's ground down to nothing, and until either the Clintons pass away, and I'm not suggesting anything nasty happened to them, but they pass away due to natural circumstances, or that they just finally decide to give up the ghost and let other people take over the party, or that another party emerges, like maybe it'll be the Democratic Socialists of America finally, and they'll emerge as a party, and they'll have AOC and the squad, and all those guys will join, and they'll just split the Democrats in half, and the neoliberals will be left with the Democratic Party, although I don't think they'll stay, because they'll see it as, well, this isn't going to work because we don't have any real power anymore. So they'll jump and become moderate Republicans, and what you'll finally be left with is maybe some moderate Democrats who, will look to the long term and rebuilding the party. Maybe they'll return to their classic liberal roots, like libertarians.